Hi everyone, thanks for joining into my YouTube channel, Career in Ireland, and it's good to see you all over here. And we are now going to start with our next session, that is flip marketing and personal branding. So we are going to talk about what is personal branding, how it's going to help you during your interviews, and what exactly the flip marketing is. Flip marketing is a very new concept in terms of marketing and personal branding, where people know that that's a standard way of marketing yourself towards people. Either it's a product or it is yourself. When you are trying to sell yourself or your product, that's one way out, that how you would do that, and the other way is exactly opposite of the traditional way of marketing yourself or your product. So we are going to talk about the flip marketing style of taking the interviews, and that's going to help you in a big way. So soon we are going to start with this. I'm sharing my slides with you that would help you in better understanding better that how is flip marketing and what is personal branding and how it's going to help you in your interactions with your interviewers. So stay tuned and best of luck. And I'm just sharing my slides with you. Just look at them and you're going to get help much of these on these aspects of it. Okay, all right. So I'm sharing my presentation with you. I hope you all are able to see my presentation. Okay, so we are going to keep this session short, and after half an hour of time of discussing on flip marketing and personal branding, I'm going to talk about the questions and answers which you guys must be having on me. Okay, so flip marketing and personal branding. We'll start with first personal branding. So we need to understand what personal branding is. So if we talk about personal branding, so we see over here that many times people talk about that, give me some tips, some tricks that would help them in cracking the interviews. But these are shortcuts, and these shortcuts usually doesn't help. These are just some tricks. Do you think that when during an interview you'll be able to sail through an interview just by through short tricks? Never underestimate the interviewers. They are not stupid people. They understand how to evaluate people. Maybe probably you are giving this interview first time, second time, or up to most 10, 12 times. But the people who's taking interview, they are taking interviews from years. Usually they have an experience around 15 years at least. So they know what kind of tricks people do. So the best possible way is not to find yourself, but to create yourself. To create yourself in such a way that it gives a big impression on your personal brand. First thing before talking about your personal brand is you need to understand the interviewer. There's a famous saying, I would say, from Sun Tzu. And what Sun Tzu says, Sun Tzu is one of the military general in Chinese army, maybe ages ago, who wrote a book, The Art of War. So he says the first thing is understand your enemy, and in hundreds of battles, you will never be in peril. So what our understanding over here is, the first thing is to understand your interviewer. Whenever you are going for an interview, for any job, even if the names of the interviewer have not been informed to you, you have this authority to ask the person or your special point of contact within the company that who is the man who's going to take my interview, and what is his name as well. You can get his name, you can get his designation, what is his designation, and you can also check with the lady or the person who is conducting your interview that how many people would be there during the interview, and it's what level of interview. Is it a stage 3 interview, 1 2 3, or it is multiple stages interview? So you can check with all these, and the understanding over here is you need to understand your interview. Go through this LinkedIn profile. There's no harm is connecting to your potential interviewer in advance of the interview. Many times people think that this is something I cannot connect it over LinkedIn, what kind of impression it's make. But it's up to you. If you want to make a connection in LinkedIn, it's okay. You doesn't want to make a connection in the LinkedIn, it's also fine. But you need to view his profile. You need to understand that what is his experiences, what kind of technologies he's worked in, what kind of in what capacity he's working in the company, what is his authority level, how many people are reporting to him. So all these things are very crucial for your interviews. So understanding the interview is first key thing. It would also give you an understanding that what kind of subject familiarity the person have on the job role that you are going to give. If you are going to give a role of a business analyst or data analyst or something like this, and the person is of a certain background, you can easily understand the integration between these two, that this person is of the same background or the other background, what kind of depth he could go into. So that's the key thing that you can take in mind. The other thing which I would like to know is, now I'll focus on the personal brand. What how can you create the personal brand? If you look about the market and the awareness of the employers that they have, they almost have four things in common. And they always, whether they say it, and these four things will never be common in job description. People will not mention these things in a job description because these things are better understood than told. And on the basis of my understanding of the 15 years of experience in marketing, I would say that these four things that everyone should mention in the market that I have been into, these four things that everyone should mention. The first thing is customer centricity. All companies and all key people, what they look for is customer centricity. Customer is the top priority guy, top guy which holds all the equations. So you need to show in your resume, in your talks, in your conversations, or in any kind of connection that you make with your employer, your customer centricity, that how much you are customer centric people, what kind of customers you have dealt with, and how do you deal with customers, and at what place you position them in terms of your hierarchy. So if customer centricity is one key thing, the other thing which you need to mention in all your resumes or into your discussions, interviews, this feedback to feed forward. Every boss likes to give a feedback, but the problem with these bosses are, many times people take the feedback from the bosses or from customers or even from the peer-to-peer network. They get the feedback and they goes into garbage. They don't do anything. So you need to show that you move this feedback to feed forward. It means that you have got a feedback from boss or a customer. You have worked on that feedback, and after working on the feedback, you have fixed the things or fixed the issues that you have in your delivery. And after fixing those issues after the feedback, you are putting that thing back again to the customer and the boss for evaluation. This is called as feedback to feed forward. So you are moving the things from feedback to feed forward. So this is another crucial thing which everybody looks for, and that creates your personal brand. The other thing, that the brand is created by early delivery. Every customer, every boss, every organization needs early delivery. Think about a scene when you ordered a product from Amazon and it promised to deliver you in 7 days. In most of the times it commits a delivery date for a few days, but it always delivers one day early than the committed date. So this is called as early delivery. People get happy when they get deliver the things quite early. So you need to make sure that you deliver the same content towards your interviewer at the time of interview, that you are a potential candidate who have got a history of delivering the things early, not on time, not after time, but before time. The other thing I would like to do is a kind of a subject knowledge. You need to mention that you are subject knowledge expert about yourself. You know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing in. This is, I would say, a very crucial role. No matter how customer centric you are, no matter how feedback to feed forward you do, no matter what early delivery you do, but if you are not a subject matter expert of your own thing, then you are gone. Absolutely, you are gone. You need to show them you are a subject matter expert. If you are not a subject matter expert, you need to build up your brand like this. As I told you, sometimes it's not about finding your brand. Sometimes it's about creating your brand. You can't create your brand if you are not a subject matter expert. You need to show something to them that you are a subject matter expert. If you are not a subject matter expert now, learn about your technology, learn about the key thing, learn about your business, learn about your data, learn about it again and again, and until you are ready to self-proclaim you as a subject matter expert. So these four things are usually most common in all the interviewers in all the companies. The other thing on the other side, if you would see of the slides, then you see there are other four things that would help you in creating another brand, and that is opportunity to offer. You need to tell your employers that what kind of opportunity you are having to offer to them. For example, if you would say that you are a person who does not like monitoring, or you are a person who works in autopilot mode, you don't need a large amount of supervision. This is a great sort of thing that it would give a great relief to your boss, that he don't have to supervise you, he don't have to monitor you. If you won't say that, it won't go to them. They would not understand by themselves that you are a person who lacks who you are the person who doesn't need a constant monitoring. So always ensure that in some kind of conversation you tell them, for example, someone is asking you about your strengths, you can tell them that your strength is to work without supervision or with minimal supervision, working in autopilot mode. These are the things that create your brands. Avoiding cliche is of all, I would say, one of the also big thing that does not create the brand, but using cliches is always destroying your brand. Many people on the interviews, they say, you know, or they say, trust me, honestly speaking. All these type of cliches you need to avoid because everybody uses them. And when everybody uses them, you become a part of a crowd. You don't distinct yourself. So you need to avoid the language that everybody uses. You need to avoid the words that everybody uses. You need the commitments that everybody uses. For example, and when an employer asks, do you have any questions for me, most of the people talk about this. Could you tell me more about the job roles, please? Come on, you have got to know the job role already in the job description. You need to be explorative. You need to ask them the specific questions that in the job, how many people work in that, and if these people work, how do you make a team? What is your idea of making a cross-functional team? So ask them specific questions, and the main objective here is avoiding cliches. Anything that is very common, just avoid them. The next thing about creating your brand is expanding your territory. If you are a developer, if you are a business analyst, if you are of any sort of role, you should expand your territory. What does expansion of territory mean? Okay, I'll explain you that. I was speaking to a person who was working in some SAP technologies, and the problem was that he was not getting too many offers from SAP technologies, but he had around 5 6 years of experience. This sort of experience open new avenues for exploring new markets. If you are a developer, BA, or any sort of roles, you can move into project management, product management, or kind of analytics kind of roles, or any kind of managerial roles. 5 6 experience is a good years of experience. You can move into team lead roles. So there you need to expand your territory than your core work. You need to think like a tiger. When tiger doesn't get a hunt within his core territories, it moves outside, it steps out. So you need to step outside your own comfort zone and move into different territories. And that's going to help you so that the employer could understand that this guy is subject matter expert for doing these things. But what about next 5 years? When a company hires you, it doesn't hire you for 2 years, it hires you for, I would say, many more years. So it also gives a hierarchy to you that, okay, if you do this for 2 years or 3 years, what is the next level? So if you are expanding your territory, you can tell them that these are the things I'm also good at, these are the things which I'm ready to move into. So these expanding territories not only gives you more interview calls, but these expanding your territories also give an impression to your employer that this person is coming up with the long-term goals over here. He's not here for making quick money, or he's not coming here for a quick stepping stones and moving ahead after this company. He's coming here as a career building objective. So expanding your territory is important thing. Next, we'll talk about little bit moving further, because many times you see that that includes employer, that includes everyone. We all are humans. Many times people take decision on the basis of their liking, and then they justify them by logic. There are two decision making process: logic, justification by liking or other things. But most of the time it's vice versa. You make a decision by your emotions or by your likings, and then you try to justify it by your logic. So with this, always when you are having a talk with your employers or during an interview, talk about something else than your work. For example, if I have to take an interview from an employer and I have to quote something that what kind of machine learning I have been into, so I would not just straight away saying that I know this, that. Maybe move a little bit roundabout fashion. Okay, all right, Mr. Dance. Actually, I was playing golf last Sunday, and on the playground, I met a man, tall 6 feet man, and he was talking about the golf sticks, and suddenly he talked me about his contributions in machine learning in Arizona University. So talk about this fashion, because here everybody talks like this. So it would help you to understand the culture better, because when you talk about yourself, or if a white person is talking about taking the interview, they are going to talk about in this fashion. You're not in India now, you are not, you are in Ireland, so you need to talk in a conversational mode. All the interviews here are, I would say, they goes in a conversation mode. They don't go into question and answer round, that you are asking, someone is asking a question, you are very serious, and you are reverting with an answer. You don't need to. It should not be a disjointed effort between questions and answers. Rather, it should be like this. It should be conversational, that I am talking to you and you are talking to me, and you should revert me in the same way, that you are very familiar with me, and you are very talking in very conversational way. Some other things as well. If you are good in cooking, you can talk about cooking as well. You don't need to go off the topic. Within the topic, you need to intermingle it in such a way that it would come along with your answers, that you did this and then you moved into this and all these things. So the key, I would say, key topic is that talking away from topic is to deliver your answer in a storytelling mode, because the interviews have a very short attention span. If you tell them your answers in a storytelling mode, they would understand it better. So I will re-summarize it. There are four things very common you need to push on your resume and during your interviews: customer centricity, feedback to feed forward, early delivery, and being a subject matter expert. The other four things that you need to ensure that you do from yourself is you need to offer additional opportunities, avoid cliches, expand your territory, expand from your core topic of work, and talk in a kind of a storytelling mode. All right. So with this, we'll move into the next slide. That would more talk about your flip marketing. And in between, guys, if you have some questions, you can keep the questions. You can type in your questions in the chat box, and I'll have a look on this. If you give me one moment, let me have a look if you guys are able to see my screen properly and you're able to. I think so. You missed about seeing my screen sessions, but anyways, we can have a chat again on those sessions. We now move into the flip marketing. We'll talk about flip marketing. That what is flip marketing? How the flip marketing helps. So the first question is flip marketing. So, what is flip marketing? So, many times you have understood that when we say marketing, marketing is all about push marketing. When you push yourself or you push your product to someone, it is called as push marketing. But flip marketing is just vice versa of something. When you don't push people, you just pull people. You make something very compelling product, and you make something, or maybe yourself, you are a product in yourself, or you make yourself very compelling that people come to you instead of you going to people to sell yourself. That is flip marketing. If I would just give an example of flip marketing, you remember Geo. When Geo came in, everybody was queuing it up to get a Geo sim. That was a flip marketing. Flip marketing is something when you have people who are rushing towards you and getting through to you, rather. That is a flip marketing. So you understand what is flip marketing? It is a pull mechanism. You make your product, you make yourself in such a way that people gets attracted towards you and they coming towards it you. I've taken this example before, some times ago in my previous sessions. When you say that you have seen some LinkedIn profiles, they always mention that actively looking roles in this. This is not flip marketing. This is a completely death of flip marketing. The moment you write this, as a recruiter, as an employer, I have an impression, okay, I may be able to interview this guy, but I think so this guy would not be that much worth because nobody's taking him in. He's just rushing towards everyone. And people don't like to be sold. So definitely this is a very bad, I would say, marketing tactic. Flip marketing is about creating scarcity. How we do it? Okay. So for example, someone asked a person that, why do you want to join our organization? And what is the standard answer which everybody gives? If I would ask you, almost 90% of the people will revert in this answer. So your company is XYZ, it has got employee engagement scheme, it has got all these schemes, and you would start singing about all the good qualities that you have learned over that website or the company website, and you would start singing all these things. thinking that this would create an impression on the person who's taking the interview. Possibly, yes, yeah, it may. But the problem is, on the flip side, the problem is that he would be hearing these things almost from everyone. So I don't think so this is going to make a create an impression. Flip marketing is just opposite to it. If someone asks you about why do you want to join a company, then instead of pushing towards the job, you would create a scarcity. And you will create a scarcity with this, that to be honest with, or to be honest, a cliche. So you can start with this: in fairness, I am not looking for an opportunity at the moment. Look at this phrasing: I am not looking at the opportunity. Do you think that it's the death of your opportunity? No, it creates one, because what you're going to say now is something like this: in fairness, I'm not looking for an opportunity at the moment. I'm very good in my current organization, and I've got a great role. I got a promotion last year, and everything seems to be very comfortable. But on the other hand, I feel that being in a comfortable zone is a death of new learnings. So I'm just thinking of expanding my territory and expanding my new learnings. So I'm just giving it a try to look forward in some great organizations that would give me a great source of learning and a bunch of good new friends. And this is what I'm looking for. So I thought of coming off the interview to have a chat, open chat with you, to see that how can I help you. Now you understand this thing. You are not asking about job roles. You are saying here, how can I help you? This means that you as a person is very confident about your job, what you are doing in. You are expert in that, and you are not accepting some kind of training post joining, that how you guys do it, how the company's mechanisms are, so that they would give you training before doing some work. Rather, you are offering that you know your job already. It's just that you want to understand from them how do they work, and how can you help them, because you are expert in yourself. So you are creating a scarcity. And secondly, that comes to a third point: telling them how, instead telling them why instead of how. So that means you are not asking them how are you doing the things. Rather, you are telling them how you are going to help with them. How are you going to deal with the things? How are you going to help them? How you are going to tell them how to do this job? This is a great thing. It many time it happens then the person who's taking interview, if he's so confident about the other person who's taking the interviews, he thinks that this is the man. I don't have to go further. Release the offer letter to him or her right now. So understand this thing, that you are creating scarcity, you're telling them you're not looking for the options, or you have other options as well, but you want to join this company for some solid XYZ reasons. This is called as reason-based answers. It says you are not dying to get a job. It says that the other people who's taking your interviews, how your presence to their company is beneficial for them. So next, in it is a part of flip marketing also, that in regular marketing, when you do the interviews, you talk about your successes. I reduce the employee turnaround rate, I reduce the cost, or I make the data so visualized so better that higher management will be able to see take the decisions on keynote basis. So you sing about your successes. This is a part of flip marketing, that you don't talk about success. You as a person is perceived as success, but you talk about, you may be talking about success for some time, but you also talk about your failures and lessons learned. And this is a good quality, that even if you'd hear to any speech or any interview by a senior person, you would understand this. He would talk about his success only 20 to 25% time. Majorly he will talk about his failures and lessons learned. And maybe when you have learned the lesson, how did you apply these lessons to your next ventures? So you talk about your failures, you talk about how was your decision making process on taking the failures, how did you take the failures, what was the reason why you failed. So talk about some of your failures too. What I'm trying to make over here in this slide and in this conversation to you is, you need to do exactly opposite which everyone is doing in, so that you could differentiate yourself. Flip marketing is all about differentiating yourself. It doesn't mean that you are killing yourself. It's just that you are taking a different route to the success, which is not taken by everyone. So instead of talk about successes, you may talk about 20-25% of time, but 75% of time talk about your failures and your learned and how you applied those lessons learned into your next ventures. And the last thing is about what is the differentiating factor you are providing to them. This is extremely important. This is extremely important. What is the differentiating factor? For example, if a someone who is working on data, or someone who is working on the business analyst or as a project manager, so that are triple hierarchy, I would say. If someone is a DA, he needs to think about this: how does a BA work? If someone is a BA, he needs to think about how does a PM, project manager, work? And if he's a marketing, someone needs to do the marketing, he need to think about, I'm doing a marketing, how does digital marketing work? So you need to think about your peers, that how does your peer or how would your teammates would work, and you would put something within your resume or during your interview, that how you can do the same thing which your peer can do also. You don't have to be limited within your territory. Show them that you are expert in your territory, but also show them that what extra, what different you have in your offerings towards them. And then you can show that you are not dying for get a job. You are just looking for another opportunity for XYZ reasons which I mentioned, or maybe which you know it better. So you can work on this part, and then you can whole portray yourself as a product, not as a person who is looking for a job. So you just compare it to a product. When you buy a product, what are the key things you see? It should be fairly priced. It should be different, because if everyone would hold the same car, it would be very common. It would be very common. Nobody pays a higher price for Maruti, but everybody pays a higher price for Porsche. So you need to be different. You need to talk about lessons learned and talk about your failures. Instead of asking them about the how do they do the job, you need to tell them how they should be doing the job. You need to create a scarcity, that you are not easily available. You need to have a pull mechanism instead of a push mechanism. So these are the little bit key concepts of pull marketing. And next we are going to talk about the 4 P's of success. What are the 4 P's of success? Let me see if you guys have posted some questions. Give me a moment. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. Just a moment. Okay. All right. So, fantastic. We are now going to move on the 4 P's of success. Okay. So these are the 4 P's of success. You need to look at it very carefully, how they are positioned. So we'll start with the first P of success, that is a product. You need to understand you are the product in yourself. So what are you going to do with the product? The product should be very quality product. And it should be easy to handle. Its user interface should be very easy. And that is the reason why I put a special emphasis on your resume. Your resume is just a snapshot of your personality. So you need to make your product very well, and that product includes resume. Your product includes your knowledge. Your product includes your experiences, and your product includes something special in your resume or during your interviews that would attract the attention. So you have to make a product you're like this, and your product should be very easy to use, very easy to read. For example, there are many resumes I see that is data, content, very difficult to read. You need to understand that when your resume first goes to a recruiter, he just have 10-15 seconds to decide whether she is going to read your resume or she doesn't going to read your resume. Just 10 seconds. So your resume should be readable, and most probably I would say that it should be pictorial based, because a picture tell 100 words at a time. So it should be fairly spaced. It should be of right font. It should be of mentioning your what you are selling in. For example, there is a one person who is a DA, data analyst, and he need to mention 3 things: straightforward, in 2 or 3 lines straight away at the top. What do you do? How much experience do you have? And what skills you are selling in, what subjects you know. So if a DA, he can mention that data analyst with 4 years of experience, having the skill of Python, R, whatever, with fair understanding of SQL databases, worked in multinational organizations such as this in this geography, US, America, India, whatever. Just 3 lines, so that the recruiter who just have 10 seconds, she doesn't have to go like this, oh, what is I'm going to see. She would just understand in 3 lines that what you are offering. So you need to sell your product like this. Second thing is place. By place, I mean which industry and which sector. You need to play a special emphasis. You need to portray yourself as a specialist, that which industry you are looking for. Try to understand everything about that industry. Try to understand everything about that sector. That's called as place. The other thing that I would like to push you is the price. You would be the second question the headhunter is going to ask you over the telephone call, the first telephone call. He's going to ask you about what is your expectations. You need to have a fair understanding of the market. You need to have a fair understanding of your work and your experience, so that you could quote them exactly the right amount. Many people go on payscale.com or some other website to get a, I would say, a range of salaries, but it is best, if you are a DA, if you are a project manager, if you're a BA, it's best to ask the person itself how much he's making. It's rather, I would say, it's difficult that somebody would tell about his salary. But if you talk about a business analyst or a data analyst, about ask him about that how much people with this much of experience should expect to these people. Don't ask about salaries directly. Rather, I would say you just ask them that with this kind of experience, what should be the expectation in the market, and try to match with the pay scale and then see what is the difference. Because in my case, I would say pay scale had a wide range of, because if you'd say of for senior manager, they say about 70 to 100. This is a wide range, and even people go beyond 100. So I don't trust pay scale that much. Rather, I prefer checking with people about what the market trend is. And the last thing is promotion. As I have explained you in a couple of my previous YouTube live shows as well, that networking and recommendation really goes well in Irish market. If you are well networked guy, you need to understand almost more than 50% of the job openings does not go on LinkedIn, Irish jobs, or anywhere else. More than 50% of the open for the jobs go with somewhere people they know by themselves. This is the power of networking. Recommendation play a major role, so it would be extremely good if you would have a recommendation from someone. Many people write in the resumes like references available on request. That doesn't make sense. Either you take them off completely, or you have some of the references by either your professors or someone who's local to Ireland, or some prominent person who is into the industry. So promotion makes a very great impression on yourself. Either you network good, or you should have a good recommendation. These are the major 4 P's of success, but there are fifth P as well. That is a physical evidence. When you talk about your experience in the interview, when you talk about your failures or your successes, you would be blabbering yourself, and nobody's going to trust unless you give them a physical evidence. If you did something great in your last job, tell them what great did you do. And even if you did not do a great thing, you have to articulate in such a way that you actually did something, because I understand that everybody is great in it itself. So you must have done something that would have uh, gained some kind of good thing for your team or your company. You just have to give a physical evidence to it. Do not miss this out. This is extremely important. The sixth P is productivity. And when I said about you work in a supervision, without supervision, you work in an autopilot mode. So this is your productivity. Never forget this. Each company, each person, each interview requires productivity. Just think about it and take care of it. Mention about this productivity always. Do not miss it out. Now we are going to move out on our employer hierarchy of needs. When an employer posts a job opening, what does it require? What is most important for him? what are the other things he require, and how what is the hierarchy of the things. You need to understand the base of this triangle is knowledge fit. When I say knowledge fit, it needs that a person should be knowledgeable enough in the subject, whether it's DA, BA, PM, or digital marketing, or sales, or anything else. Knowledge fit is a key thing. And when I say about knowledge fit, it requires accredited skills. When I say accredited skills, it means if you say you are a good manager, then you should have a management skills, maybe a management in business management, MBA, or maybe management in marketing, or you should have a managerial experience along with accreditation, that is either masters in management or maybe some certification. If someone people are going for project management, then apart from a management degree, they also need a PMP, or I would say ACP, all these kind of things, or Prince 2. So these certifications are important. Certification is important in almost all aspects of your knowledge. If you have a master's, it's good, but along with this you should have certification and you should have a working knowledge. Many times in the interviews, people give you a sign you up for a portal, and then you have to do a code test. With the code test, they understand what is your level of knowledge you have. If you pass this code test, almost 50% of your hurdle is over. Then you come with a cultural fit. When you goes to a verbal interview, face-to-face interview, there is a very less probability that they would talk about your knowledge. They may ask you some basic questions, but rather they would try to explore you more about your cultural fitness. That are you culturally fit to the organization? Would you be able to work in teams? Would you be able to lead teams after 2 to 3 years when they are going to promote you up? Are you able to understand their language of doing the things? And are you are you a solo player, or are you a team player? And are you able to gel them out in their team outings, maybe for when going for some drinks or some parties? You would be cultural fit or not. In Irish way of hiring, this cultural fit is extremely important. And now you would see that these two bases of the triangle, knowledge fit and cultural base fit, they goes for around 70-75%. But the real difference that is made, the decision is made on the top of the triangle, that is extracurriculars. And this extracurriculars is made up of brand and impression and likings. I would say these three things: brand, impression, and likings. This brand, impression, and likings, there is no definition to it. It may be something which is likable for one, could be dislikable for the other. Something which is perceived as brand by someone, it could be perceived as a complete shit by the other person. I would give you an example also. I would remember that there were two employers in the same, I would say two interviews in the same, for the same employers interviewing one candidate. He asked a very common thing, and the interviewee gave a different answer, and both the interviewers have a different thought about it. One was thinking, this guy doesn't know anything, he couldn't even give a very standard answer. The other person thought like this: oh, it's great, he did not give a standard answer, he's different, he's good. So these extracurriculars could be dicey, may be good for someone, may not be good for someone. It really depends on luck. But three things which is common for these extracurriculars is liking, your brand, and your image, reputations. So this is something you can create by your personal branding. And if you do your personal branding right, you would be able to work better in the extracurriculars. So these are the employee hierarchy of needs. And with this, we are done with the flip marketing and the personal branding session. We will now move on to your Q&A answers. This session was particularly kept a little short to take more on your questions. I'll move on to your question and see if you have any. Give me a minute. Let me have a look on your questions. So I have a question from Arvind Kumar. Okay. And Arvind Kumar asked, slightly off the topic, I want to ask you about a topic during the last week's session, but I missed it. The topic is about tech meetups and career fairs. Can you talk few things about it? Arvind, I can talk you about it, but maybe not in this session because we have a completely different topic. And what I would suggest you is that if you would make this question in Career in Ireland group, I will be reverting with you with the details. But do mention about what do you want to understand about tech meetups and career fairs. I'll give you more details on that. Okay. And now we have Venkat Reddy. Venkat Reddy is asking for PM roles. Hi, Venkat. PM roles, do we need to demonstrate knowledge other than different industries like infra and software, or PM skill demonstrations are enough? So Venkat, you have asked a good questions. PMs are of different sorts. There are lot many project management opportunities are there for infrastructures. So if you're looking for a job in as an infrastructure PM, you need to understand, rather I would suggest you to complete, and there is certification that is called as ITIL. So if you complete the certification, you would understand everything about infrastructure and you will be able to take and give the interviews very well. So you need to understand the infrastructure part of the PM if you're going for a PM for infrastructure role. But for software development, a knowledge about standard SDLC life cycle is good enough. And yes, when you talk about the PM skills, a PM is not only just the PM. A PM is, I would say, a head of the team as well. So he need to understand the language that software developers talk about, or which infrastructure technicians talk about. In order to understand that language, you need to have the basics of that language. So to understand their language and to resolve the issues that they have in their day-to-day life. So you need to have those. You need to show those skills as well to the employers. Employers do not hire a PM who does not understand, who is not well versed with infra or software skills, but either it would be infra or it would be software. An employer would not expect a PM to be well versed in infra and software both. So I would say that for infra, you can go with ITL certification. It would give you all the details about infra, how the infra industry work. And for software, I think the standard SDLC lifecycle approach, or maybe you can read about Agile. If you read about Agile, you will know many of the things of that sort. All right. Do we have any other questions then? No? That's great. Now, what I would suggest you is to post some of the questions if you have any. If you don't have any, it's fine. You later on connect with me in terms of questions later. And take care. I'm just going to wind up now. We'll meet up again on next Sunday. Till then, thank you. But I got another question from Venkat Ratnam, he's saying probably off the topic. To get special skills sponsorship, what do you recommend? Okay, Venkat, for special skills sponsorship, when you say special skills sponsorship, I guess you mean critical skills sponsorship or just a sponsorship of your visa. So he's also saying that should we add in cover letter or part of resume? Uh, Venkat, cover letter is fine. There are many companies who do not accept the resume without a cover letter. But to my own experience, I see people usually do not read the cover letter because it's in format of a letter. It's actually a letter. So they don't have time to read all that. So I would mention that even if you're mentioning in the cover letter, you need to mention in the resume surely. Ensure that you mention this in a resume, that what is your strengths and what is the thing that you have to offer. And for especially for the sponsorship, you need to emphasize on your core skills. Only then they are going to get this sponsorship. All right. So Rahul is also asking another question, and he's asking, hi Raghav, I have 6 months of experience in cloud. Please suggest me good certification in cloud. I am enrolling in NCI for masters in cloud computing. Rahul, I would suggest you that if you are going in NCI cloud computing is very tough. NCI is extremely tough on marking of the students, and I would say a large number of students fail in NCI because I would say the academics is quite tough. So I would suggest you to focus, because I've seen more than 50% of the class do not complete its masters in 1 year. They take another 6 months. So I would, especially if you're going in NCI, I would especially suggest you not to go with any certification, because your cloud computing masters is in itself is good enough. But once you do it, you are able to complete your masters, then you can probably go for certifications. As of now, please focus on your masters. This is most important than that. and it's a good course of cloud computing. There is a lot many opportunities coming out, and large opportunity doesn't mean that you will get a job. Large opportunity does mean that people who are fit for the jobs will get jobs. So I would recommend you to work more hard in terms of your masters rather than certifications. So Mohammed Miran Moinuddin is asking a question. He's saying, I'm looking to apply for RA position in University of Limerick. Okay, I'm confused about the offer letters of master studies in the same university. Should I inform to my employer about my offer or studies or not? So, Mohammed, I'm not too sure. You are, I guess, from your question that you are already based in Dublin and you have got an admission in the University of Limerick also. If you are working over here full time and you are taking a part time studies from University of Limerick, there's no harm. Even if you tell your employer, it's okay. If you don't tell your employer, even that's fine. There's no legal binding to it. But I would suggest you to inform your employer, because it is always good to keep them updated. It would help you that you are because in Irish way of organization, studies is always recommended, so it may help you any further into progress. So it's better to inform your employer about it. Rahul says, thanks for explanation, Raghav. No worries, Rahul. Take care. Now I'm done with all the questions. You guys carry on. If you have any questions, you ping me on Career in Ireland. I'll be happy to help. Take care and enjoy your weekend, because for me it's a weekend again. Tomorrow is a holiday. We have a bank holiday in Dublin. So take care and wish you best of luck for your further job search. Take care. Bye bye. Raghav is signing off.